If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lone Lightworker podcast. I'm your host, Jen Rodriguez. I'm so thrilled that you're here with us today. This is the Lone Lightworker's 4th episode, and I'm so excited to announce that we've hit 100 listens on just one of our episodes. Obviously, I'm not up there with the Michelle Obamas with hundreds of thousands of listens, but I am so excited to hit 100 on just one. I'm so grateful that people have connected with the Lone Lightworker. These are definitely exciting times right now with so many new things on the horizon, whether they're already in progress and we're continuously working to make it better, or whether it's the ideas that are yet to come. But it's all exciting, and there's clearly so much happening that I want each and every one of you to be a part of. We had recently launched the Lone Lightworker blog and website, and while it's definitely a work in progress, we're really excited and want to share it with the world. So check us out at www.thelonelightworker.com and be sure to sign up for our newsletter to stay abreast of everything to come. And if you know someone who could use a little light and love in their lives right now, or maybe you know someone who shines their light and could help the Lone Lightworker to share and shine, please spread the word and have them check us out. I'm thrilled to announce the Lone Lightworker's 30-day Shine Your Light Challenge. There is so much beauty all around us, and when we get busy with life, we sometimes forget or fail to recognize the blessings that are all around. We're challenging everyone to click the pic, tag the Lone Lightworker, and use the hashtag #ShineYourLight to help spread the love and to shine our lights in this world. Check out the Lone Lightworker website or Facebook and Instagram pages for details. One final announcement before we move into today's episode. As you know, we've been trying to build and grow the Lone Lightworker community and get the podcast, get the word out about the podcast. So we had created a raffle or giveaway for Brene Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection, which ran through August 4th. And our plan was to announce the winner on today's episode of the Lone Lightworker. So without further ado, we have our winner, and I would like to give a huge thanks and congratulations to Karina Ramon Nixon. Karina, thank you for checking out the Lone Lightworker podcast and Facebook and Instagram communities. Keep shining your light and keep spreading the love, sister. We're all human, and with that comes imperfection. We make mistakes at times, and sometimes we hurt others with those mistakes. We say or do things that we later wish we wouldn't have, or maybe we just wish we would have said or done things slightly different. We have good days, we have neutral days, and sometimes we have bad days. Regardless of which of those we're having at any given time, we have a vibe that we're giving off. Have you ever noticed that depending on what or how you're feeling and what you're projecting, that it seems to attract more of the same? It's because our vibe attracts our tribe. At the lowest points in my life, I was not projecting positivity or happiness. So was it really a shock that in return, I was getting more negativity and more sadness? What we put out into the world is likely what we're going to get back. We attract what we put out there, and I was often putting out anything but positivity. And what happened? Well, people got tired of that, and I probably brought their vibes down, so they ran away as quickly as they could. I should say that not everyone did, but a lot did. And it wasn't all the time. It was here and there with positivity and sunshine in between, which was probably even worse for others because they never knew what they were going to get from me. Have you ever avoided certain people because they were Debbie Downers? And don't get me wrong, there were some who gladly accepted my negativity and fed right into it. You know the saying, misery loves company. Well, funny enough, in many of those cases, I eventually got to a point where I avoided some of them because I recognized that all we were doing together was keeping each other down. We were keeping each other stuck in constant griping and complaining, woe is me type stuff, and that gets old. So you may be thinking right now, is she saying that we need to be sunshine and daisies all day, every day, despite the fact that sometimes we just have bad days? No, I am definitely not saying that. We're human, and with that comes a range of emotions we all experience and feel throughout our lives. What I'm saying is, it's one thing to have an occasional bad day, and it's another thing to have a low vibe in general. From our episode, Get Over It, we talked about feeling it all and experiencing it all. But at some point, we have to be able to move on and move forward from those lower and darker moods and situations. It's completely understandable that when you've had a really bad day at work, you may bring it home with you and you may very well ponder those feelings for the rest of the night or even for a couple of days. The point is, there just needs to be a point where you no longer allow it to continue. There is a point where you need to pull up your bootstraps and decide that you are no longer going to allow those feelings or that person or situation to affect you in that way any longer. A few years ago, I had a lot going on in every aspect of my life, work, home, health, you name it. But work was an especially difficult and challenging time for me for a couple years, actually. I was literally waking up every morning between 3 and 5 a.m., sick to my stomach, worrying about the day that was yet to come. I would literally be driving down the highway at 75 miles an hour as I was throwing up, and then I'd get to work and often get sick in my office or have to go running to the restroom until it came time to go home. Then my car rides home were usually me bawling my eyes out, racking my brain, trying to identify what I had done wrong or what it was that had this person disliking me so much to the point of lying to and about me. Then, after I braved the week and finally made it to the weekend, I'd spend the entire weekend stressing and panicking about the fact that Monday morning would be here all too soon and I'd be back to the hell that I was living. It was miserable. I was miserable, and I was miserable to be around, probably. I just wanted someone to listen to me, to truly hear me, and I wasn't getting that. I just wanted someone to reassure me that it wasn't me and that I wasn't going out of my mind. I wanted to be rescued. And when those things didn't happen, I got bitter and I got really angry. My vibe, my mood fluctuated hourly from angry to sad to disappointed. Sure, I had some good days in between, but I was so focused on surviving at that point that the good days were rare. I could have probably had a lot of good days had I not been so focused, so certain, and so worried about the bad days that I knew were lurking around the corner. Obviously, not giving that lady so much power probably would have gone a long way as well, but hindsight is 20/20, right? Looking back now, I wouldn't have wanted to be around me at that point in time. Things obviously improved a bit once that boss of mine finally left, but they didn't improve quickly, and there were remnants that remained from things that this person had put into others' heads. And you know what? That pissed me off even more, to think that this person was obviously no longer here. Obviously, that meant that others must have recognized her true nature and the fact that she was not a good leader or a good person even. So why was I still being treated and or made to feel as though I was still the problem? I had such hurt and disappointment, such anger and resentment in the people that I was looking to and counting on to save me. I was so sure everyone had been listening to this person who was gaslighting, but I never stopped to consider that maybe it was my attitude or my vibe that lent itself to these people not having my back. I mean, what was I showing them? I was showing them someone who was mad and pissed and who wasn't going to go down without a good fight, and I'm sure none of that helped. I was a miserable person, and it was emanating off of me as strong as if I had been sprayed by a skunk. What's funny is, I can't quite tell you when I began realizing that I was changing and not for the better. To be honest, I'm not sure that that even matters. What matters is that I eventually recognized it, and while my steps may have been small, I began taking some steps nonetheless to heal myself and to change my outlook and to change my vibe. I've always been one who values people being real and people being honest, so I have tried to be real and to be honest, but when you're hurt or angry, that doesn't always go over with others so well. So if and when I felt like I couldn't be honest or direct with what or how I was feeling, then I just kind of had an attitude about me. I can't stand it when people act fake, and I'm not okay with being fake, so then I felt as though I wasn't being real with someone if they didn't somehow know that I wasn't happy. Ask anyone who knows me well, and they will tell you I don't have to say what's on my mind because my face will say it all. My face betrays me on a regular. So there would be Jen sitting back at the family gathering, sitting in the corner pouting and not engaging with others. How sucky is that? I had a lot of shame about that, for sure, and it's something I am still very much working on, but I have come so far. People don't want to be around others who are negative or mad or mean all the time. That becomes exhausting, and it brings everyone around you down. You can very easily go from being a lighthearted, fun-loving life of the party to no one wanting you around because everyone breathes a little easier when you're not. That stings, but I understand it. Thank goodness for my husband and my mom and a very good friend of mine who happens to be a therapist. They loved me through the darkest and ugliest of my days, and they held me and they hugged me, and they did their best to help me shift my perspective and, most importantly, in my beliefs about myself. I think a large part of my growth in this area is because of them. So what does negativity look like? For some, it may be the sarcastic comments. It could be the constant complaining or things never being good enough or right enough. Negativity may come across as always expecting the worst in any given situation, or of always feeling or seeing yourself as the victim. Negativity affects so many of us in so many ways. When I was constantly stressing during that period at work, I dropped close to 50 pounds, and not in a healthy way. I was absolutely living in fear all the time, and I gave away any and all power that I had day after day. And the worst part of it all was that I was not the only one being affected. My family was as well. My children, my husband, my parents, everyone around me was being affected. When we find ourselves in that space, we have to take action, and we need to turn it around for our sake and for the sake of everyone else around us, for the relationships that are so important to us. DevelopGoodHabits.com published an article, How to Stop Being Negative. I've chosen some of my favorites, but you can pull up the full article because there are a lot to go off of. To start us off, I'm actually combining several on the list and summarizing here for you. It all boils down to identify who in your life is negative and then work to create some distance, or in some cases, maybe even sever ties altogether. Of course, I'd like to think that, someone would have had a talk with me about that. So maybe try talking with them first. But if that doesn't work, then maybe you need to distance yourself a bit. Recite positive affirmations. At first thought, this might sound cheesy to some. I know I once thought it was cheesy, but once I actually tried it, it worked. A friend of mine starts each year off with a word. It's the word of the year, and she reminds herself of this each and every time she needs to. Her word for 2020 was capable, and she often reminds herself that she is capable of whatever it is she's dealing with or attempting to overcome at that moment. But I love this idea, and the bottom line is when you make a point to recite positive affirmations or statements, in time it starts to sink in and it actually makes a difference. So give it a try. Practice replacing negative thoughts with positive thoughts. So the next time you catch yourself saying or thinking something negative, stop and then make a point to turn that statement around. The next one is one of my favorites, and we talked about it a lot on last week's episode, practice gratitude. From the It's a Choice episode last week, we talked about practicing gratitude and how it gets easier the more you do it, and your thought process and perceptions of things will shift. They also recommend doing it regularly, so hopefully after last week's episode, you started a gratitude journal and you're already working and practicing this daily. Stop complaining. Love this one, and it's at the top of my list. I do not want to be a complainer, so as I catch myself, I stop and reframe or rephrase my thoughts and my words so that I'm practicing and improving. I noticed my children doing this a lot, which then led me to wonder where they were picking this up from. And what do you know? I'm fairly certain they've learned from the best, me. So not only for my sake, but for my children's sake, we're all working on our complaining. Consider who you're keeping company with. So this fits along with the first one, remembering that misery loves company, and when we're surrounding ourselves with the negative Nancys, the negativity can very easily multiply and get you to a place where you're drowning in it. So surround yourself with the people and places and things that will lift you up rather than bring you down. Next one is get healthy. Diet and exercise make you feel better physically, and when our bodies feel good, our heads often follow suit. Combining a couple more on this one, tell people you love them and say thank you. Share your love, share your light. Express yourself and express the gratitude and love that you have for that person. It's kind of hard to be crappy when you're thanking someone or telling someone how much you love and appreciate them. Try to get carried away in positive emotions and feelings, which will then naturally reduce the negative emotions and thoughts. The last one that I'll touch on today is to live your life, not theirs. Meaning live your life to the fullest and put all of your energy into really living your own life. Stop judging others and stop worrying about what others are doing or how they're living their lives, and just focus on you. The article lists 37 steps, so be sure to check out the full article and those that we haven't covered today. They've even provided a really cool summarized list that you can keep handy and refer to in those moments when you feel the negativity creeping in. So check it out when you have some time, and I'll make sure to put it on my blog as well for easy access. We all have bad days, and we will all have difficult situations and people that we encounter at points in our lives. It's easy to get sucked into the complaining and the negativity if we allow ourselves to. But once we've chosen to recognize and admit that we're not in a good space, that we're not in the space that we want to be in, we can begin making small changes each day. And each day we will get a little closer to being healed and being happy. We get what we put out into the world. We are treated the way we treat others. Our vibe attracts our tribe, and our attitudes attract more of the same. I never want to go back to the place I was in as of a couple years ago. I choose to be grateful. I choose to be compassionate. I choose to be loving, and I choose to be positive. My life has already improved so much in the past year. I have no doubt that I will continue attracting magnificent people and the beauty and love that I am embracing and making a point to put out there each and every day. With that, I thank you so much for coming back, and I look forward to meeting you back here next week for an all-new episode of The Lone Lightworker. Please be sure to subscribe. Please connect with the Lone Lightworker communities on Facebook and Instagram, and please spread the word about The Lone Lightworker. Until then, keep shining your light and keep spreading